All right, we're all ready to go at 7:30. This is being recorded, so good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the April 8th, 2025 meeting of the Milton Conservation Commission. Commission members are appointed by the Select Board to implement the rules and regulations of the State Wetlands Protection Act, as well as the Milton Town Bylaw governing the wetlands. As a matter of formality, we ask anyone and everyone to participate, ask questions, make comments. But for public meeting, open meeting requirements, we do ask that you identify yourself. As a second matter of formality, we always introduce ourselves. My name is John Kiernan, and just let me read across the top of my row. Steve, can you go?
Steve Ibis, Conservation Agent.
Wendy,
Good evening, I'm Wendy Garpa.
Charlie,
Charles Bosworth.
Arthur,
Arthur Doyle, Commission Member.
Philip,
Philip Driscoll, Conservation Clerk.
Ingrid,
Ingrid Bailey, Commission Member.
and Tom Palmer.
Tom Palmer, Commission Member.
Right. And I did receive notification that Hans would not be able to attend tonight, so we've got our quorum, we're ready to go. First on the agenda is an executive session, which is actually not going to take place. We can skip that. The reference there is to a discussion of Vaughan Wells versus Milton Conservation Commission. And I can report that that case has been settled. The case has been dismissed in Norfolk Superior Court, and all is well that ends well. And that's sort of the flip side. There was another case pending in Norfolk, and that was the Bacardi estate, or Mrs. Bacardi, I guess. I didn't mean to report her as being deceased, but Mrs. Bacardi versus the planning board, and that's been resolved as well. You can confirm that, Ned, is that correct?
Yes, both cases were dismissed a day apart. The Bacardi case was settled and dismissed, and the following day we received notice that the action involving the Conservation Commission was dismissed as well.
Perfect. All right. So we don't need
all appeals are now dismissed.
Perfect. All right, good news. All right, thanks all. Next on the agenda is number 2, Milton Neponset Estuary Surveying Project by Apex Environmental Partners, and that's an update. Arthur, do you want to introduce that?
I'd be happy to. We have with us Jamie Villette, who's representing Apex Environmental Partners, and Jamie's prepared to present an update. I think everybody remembers that she was on agendas 3 or so weeks ago, and Jamie has a couple of slides that she can, screenshots that she can show us that she's prepared for tonight's evening. So Jamie, welcome.
Thanks, Arthur. Can everyone hear and see the screen that I'm sharing?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, thank you.
So again, my name is Jamie Villette. With Apex. I am a consulting engineer spearheading the Neponset River Estuary study. So tonight I'm just going to be giving a brief update on the project status, going over a recap of the work completed to date since I last presented in front of the Concom back in February, as well as just going over the initial draft concept plans and some of the key takeaways that were received from the visioning workshop that we just recently held with the town and key stakeholders. So, as I mentioned, I was last in front of the Conservation Commission in February, and since then, the beginning of March, we drafted the initial concept plan and hosted a visioning workshop with town representatives as well as key stakeholders from the city of Quincy and the Neponset River Watershed Association. And the beginning of this week, we've been coordinating for upcoming field work, which is scheduled on Thursday. So with that, just a brief overview again of the study area. It's 4 parcels abutting the Neponset River. The green represents the green, the blue, and the yellow parcels represent the town-owned parcels, and the orange boundary represents the privately owned parcel out at Black Rock, which is owned by Blue Cross Blue Shield. So as I mentioned this week, we plan on installing wood stakings on Thursday in the green. The green dots represent the proposed staking locations, and the red dots represent the existing bounds or monuments that were located during the field survey completed back in January. And then the red dots with the yellow highlights will be also putting a wooden stake in just because they were a little difficult to spot with the current monuments or bounds that were located. And then we're hoping to use these wood stakes to host a hybrid meeting so that we can go out in the field and just kind of get a visual of the town boundaries and key property bounds that is within the project study area.
Jamie, if I might add,
Yep.
we're required to notify all of the abutters of work to be done, such as the work that you just mentioned, scheduled for this Thursday. And those notices were delivered today to all of the abutters, giving them more than 24 hours.
Thank you, Arthur. Yep.
Yeah. Thanks, Arthur. You did it, didn't you? Didn't you actually deliver it?
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
You're a gentleman and a scholar.
Had a chance to chat with some people, and it was
Thanks
very
for
good.
doing that. Thank you very much for doing that.
You're very welcome.
Yes, I hope you stayed warm out there today.
Woof.
I put them in plastic cases because it was a little bit wet this morning down there.
Jamie, can I ask you something? You anticipate some kind of a visual inspection meeting. Who would be invited to that, and when do you envision that happening?
We envision it happening after we provide the draft of the final deliverable to the internal town team that we've been working with. And then I envision, we would open this up to anyone who has been in the meetings to date with this project, but it wouldn't be open to the public. Not yet. We do have a public meeting planned as part of the last task of this project. I guess in regards to timeline, I would envision, end of April, beginning of May, hopefully, but it depends on any additional feedback that we may receive tonight, so that we can have time to incorporate the input that is provided.
All right, and just, in the interest of transparency, when these stakes go up, will it be evident that there are going to be some identifiable encroachments? And I know that will become an issue, or hopefully not an issue, but at least in terms of notice to some of the landowners. I think we'd agreed to involve town council at that at that stage. But this is not simply, the reality of it is when you put up the stakes, it may become evident to some people that there are some private buildings on public land.
Yes, I believe it will become evident. So the wooden stakes will be spray painted orange. So they will be very clearly marked and noticeable. On the resident notification, it did say that we're installing these wooden stakes on behalf of the town of Milton. And then we'll also be GPS locating the installation spots where we will install the wooden stakes. It's about 13 to 15 wooden stakes will be going out on Thursday.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
And that is to continue the conversation of, going out there and looking and just being aware of the property encroachments. I know we previously did a review on paper, but sometimes it's also helpful to visually see the property bounds for both parties, being the residents and the town, to have a better idea of the path forward.
Perfect.
So that's kind of the hopes there. Okay, so moving forward, here's an overall view of the proposed concept plan that so this is an updated draft we are working on since incorporating the feedback from the visioning workshop that we recently held at the end of March. So I will go through quickly each of the in further views of each sheet of the overall, but just to give you an idea of how the trail network is being proposed to be laid out. We have about 1,500 linear feet of new trail shown in the railroad corridor, starting off of Granite Ave here. And it would be tying into the crosswalk along Granite Ave. And then the new trail along the railroad corridor would tie into the existing trail. This would be all resurfaced or new accessible trail surface. And then it would lead out and follow the same alignment that it follows today out to Black Rock. And then the other section of trail that we're proposing is the Mount Hope Canal, where it starts at the end of, or the intersection off of Thistle and Riverside Avenue. So now I'll go into a little bit more, into more detail on each section of the concept plan. So as I said, the new trailhead would start off of Granite Ave, tying into existing pedestrian connectivity and proposing to redesignate the parking area across the streets into a shared parking area for users that are wanting to walk the trail. The new trail would be a minimum of 5 foot wide and would be an accessible surface treatment. And then in the brighter green areas, we are showing either a vegetative enhancement or green space to enhance where maybe we've seen property encroachments such as yard debris or existing sheds. So relocating that and bringing back tree cover or salt tolerant shrubs of such. And then about 600 feet at 600-foot intervals, we've located accessible park benches as rest areas along the trail to provide further access to users. Moving along the trail here, where the new trail system would tie into the existing trail. You would also see here, this is something that we've incorporated from the visioning workshop since discussing with the city of Quincy, that they also mentioned they're interested in improving the portion of trail that now crosses over the town of Milton line into the city of Quincy at 0 Harriet Ave. And there may be opportunity there to tie in the trail system on the Milton side into to better tie in the trail system from Milton to Quincy, because there are users that come over from the Quincy side to get out to Black Rock. Again, we have located a rest area, and now you'll begin to see trail signage and educational signage out to Black Rock. And then at the point out at Black Rock, we've proposed a pergola with seating area as a vista point for users to sit out and enjoy this area and river access, as well as potentially bird watching and enjoying the natural habitat and estuary. Along the Mount Hope Canal side, we've shown a new trail tying into the existing sidewalk off of Thistle Ave, and then resurfacing the existing trail again to be ADA compliant, and then potentially proposing a canoe and kayak launch ramp, as well as accessible picnic area and educational signage adjacent to the Mount Hope Canal. So we also discussed during the visioning workshop what would be feasible, what would be a feasible approach to building out this trail network. And some of the feedback that we considered was a phased approach and breaking this project out into 3 parts. One would be, you see here, hatched in blue, would be the railroad corridor. So that would be the new trail alignment, about 1,500 linear feet to the existing trail. And then the resurfacing of the existing trail out to Black Rock would be potentially phase 2. And phase 3 would be the build out of the Mount Hope Canal and parking area. And then just to give you an idea of what some of these features, such as the surface treatments that we're considering, the ADA surface treatments, or potential art installations and structures along the trail, and interpretive trail signage might look like. I've provided some examples of precedent images, just to give some ideas of what the trail system could look like here in Milton. So for surface treatments, I've shown 5 different surface treatments from left to right, left being less costly, but could be higher maintenance, and moving along to the right, more costly, but less long-term maintenance. So we did initially get some feedback on the compacted stone dust material during the visioning workshop, and the preference was to avoid using the stone dust material. So I'd be interested in seeing what the Conservation Commission's opinion here is today on what types of material they would like to see the trail built out with. And also please note that, you know, the trail could also be a combination of these surface treatments in order to reduce cost and also provide less of environmental impact.
Jamie, on that very point, one of the things we discussed at the, whatever you call it, envisioning workshop, was that a portion of this trail area is inundated periodically. And when I say periodically, it's not just regular tides. Sometimes it's whatever, king tides or full moon tides or the big tides. So to the extent that there are areas that are regularly inundated with water, the stone dust might not work because of the, it could get carried away by the tide itself. So in thinking about these alternative treatments of the path to make it ADA accessible, we really have to keep our eye on where the flooding is going to occur. And by the way, the flooding is going to get worse, not better, over the next 50 years or so.
Yeah, and that's why I mentioned that it could be a combination in areas. So maybe in the area along the railroad corridor, the town could consider that portion of the trail being a compacted stone dust. And then out towards the Black Rock area could transition to a wooden boardwalk or a fiberglass grading in order to be more cost effective. But if the concern is wanting to be cohesive in the design, then I definitely think, going with with something that is more capable of enduring flooding and inundation, that would definitely be the materials towards the right of the screen. And then some art features and structures the town could consider when building out the trail system. I've shown here, for example, a wooden viewing platform that's also has a ramp, so it's ADA accessible. And then just some fun things, some fun features, like adding some deck etchings if there was to be a wooden boardwalk. And then lastly, I'm showing some examples of interpretive trail signage. So we want to definitely have a storyboard along the trail. I think that's been some consistent feedback we've received throughout the process so far. And also the importance of having trailhead signage before users walk along the trail. They have an understanding of the slope of the trail or length of the trail and intervals that rest areas are available, so users can make the decision for themselves whether they can, how far they can walk out along the trail to each of their capabilities.
You know, while you're thinking, I'm talking to the commission members and the public, while you're thinking about some of these alternative means of providing public access, Tom, you may know this better than anyone, but a few years back, we approved a boardwalk and a sort of a viewing station over the wet meadow at Houghton's Pond. And I haven't been there in quite a while. I pointed out Tom because I bet you have. But how is that boardwalk working out? Do you know, Tom, or anybody?
Yeah, it's on posts, wooden boardwalk on posts, going through an actual wetland, and I think it's been well maintained, but I really don't know much about its condition. I've just seen it from the playground and the little museum there, and you see people walking out along it. I think it's really a more ambitious construction than is needed anywhere along here, because most of these trails seem to be dry most of the time, and they are used. As you know, the neighborhoods on both sides use them, and particularly at Black Rock, I think it already is stone dust, and you can walk up and down whenever, just as you can at the MWRA embankment that goes from Ventura Park to the river in Dorchester, another hardscaped embankment that regularly floods but doesn't seem to wash away. So I would say stone dust might be an alternative wherever you don't have a lot of running water that would take away fine materials.
Good, thanks, Tom.
I think also a great option that's kind of meeting in between the stone dust and maybe a harder infrastructure like a wooden boardwalk would be the GeoPave. It's a gravel porous paver system. It's a grid system, and then you fill in the grid so it's interlocking the aggregate material. And this is, I've seen this used in Vermont. The example here I show is from Naples, Florida, in a wetland area, is actually at an estuary in Naples, Florida, Rookery Bay Reserve, and it's gives a little bit easier to maintain versus maybe the compacted stone dust. If it were to wash away, I think there would be some more maintenance compared to the other material options I've shown on the screen.
Yeah, I think I can say I'm pretty open-minded about whatever the treatment should be. I mean, these areas are used now, and when they are improved as park access, will a lot more people use them? I would guess not. It will still be mostly the same people. That just seemed to be, to me, a thing you ought to take into account when you're planning.
Right. Yeah, and I think the driver here really is, and this came up during the visioning workshop, is the long-term maintenance of the trail system. So it's kind of that initial cost versus long-term effort for upkeeping the trail system. And that's something that will present the pros and cons in our final deliverable, and we'll cost out 3 of these options.
That seems like a good approach.
Yeah, and then ultimately it will provide you, provide the town with the information to make a decision on maintenance and cost in order to select types of surface treatments moving forward. So then I think we've covered most of this, but just I categorized some of the key takeaways from the feedback we've received so far between short-term planning and long-term planning. So some key takeaways in the short term would be that the driver of the design is accessibility and maintenance. Material selection, the surface treatment for the trail should, minimize environmental impacts. For short-term planning, we'll want to continue stakeholder collaboration with the city of Quincy and as well as potentially Norfolk County. And then also continue internal conversation about long-term maintenance responsibilities. And then the long-term planning, some key highlights that were also mentioned is looking at climate adaptation and incorporating the Neponset River watersheds report on the Neponset River and estuary and how that ties into the development and improvements to this trail system, as well as looking into user safety and education, and just having that still be a focus as the trail design progresses. And then looking at future connectivity opportunities, as I mentioned, with the City of Quincy's trail system. They're also looking on improving the trail. So there could be an option there maybe for a future grant to work with the City of Quincy and the Neponset River Watershed Association. And then again, long term, just looking at how can these trail improvements also enhance and restore some of the vegetative areas that we've seen taken over by invasive species. So next steps, again, like I mentioned, Thursday, we'll be going out and installing wooded stakes along key property bounds. End of April, beginning of May, depending on any additional feedback we receive, we'll be working on wrapping up the draft memo, fact sheets, and conceptual design and costs. And then following that, we would like to host a hybrid progress meeting to review project deliverables and walk the project site so we can look at those wooded stakes and where they were installed along the key property bounds. And then to wrap up the project, our last task is to present all of this information at a public meeting. And that's the update I have for tonight.
Jamie, that was very good, succinct, direct. I'm very pleased that you were able to present tonight. Maybe we ought to put this on our May agenda anyway. I don't know if we're gonna. I know it says early mid-May, but just to protect the public record, we should put it on our agenda for the May meeting, because this looks like we might be at a time to at least get up to speed as to where you are on the public meeting.
Sure, I can talk to Arthur about that following. I think it really depends on if there's any more feedback we need to incorporate into this draft submission in order to have the hybrid progress meeting. But I I look forward to pushing this along and hopefully meeting our early to mid-May deadline.
This is great news, actually. Although I alert the other commission members that what Jamie said about the O&M plan is actually pretty significant because, as Arthur has reminded us several times, that this land now belongs to the Conservation Commission, this 33 acres or so. But we don't have the capacity to really maintain it. So we're going to be leaning a lot on the DPW. So this is really a collaborative effort here because whatever we do, whatever the final phase is in terms of what's stone dust and what's crushed gravel, what's boardwalk, it has a cost to it, but the maintenance part of it is going to be critical. And so one of the biggest stakeholders in this whole project is the DPW. And Marina Fernandez has been very good and cooperative and collaborative. So we're continuing to hold her hand or ask her for her guidance and support.
I think too, Arthur, you had mentioned potentially reaching out to the Parks Department to looking into their capabilities for upkeeping a trail system.
That's right. And I think what we might consider doing is inviting the Director of Parks and Recreation to the next meeting. And any other stakeholders that commissioners might want to recommend, if you agree that that would be appropriate. Just might also mention that in the envisioning meeting, we had represented from Quincy, the city engineer, a member of the planning staff in the city of Quincy, a member of the Quincy Conservation Commission, an environmentalist from the city of Quincy, and Sean McGinty from the Neponset River Watershed Association, who's overseeing a very broad estuary study, and he's providing the flood maps. So we will have all of that information as well for our next presentation. I hope everybody's been very cooperative, very collaborative.
And just to add to that, I just want to remind everyone that this isn't our plan and our study for this project isn't just putting something on paper and okay, go build it. Like that, our final deliverable is going to incorporate further considerations and recommendations to continue coordinating with stakeholders, as Arthur mentioned, with the city of Quincy and the Neponset River Watershed Association, so that we can continue to get folks talking, get people excited about this project, and figure out, a feasible approach to building out this trail system that makes sense for the city or for the town and the stakeholders. And with that, I want to remind you that one key next step is going to be coordination with the privately owned property here.
And Wendy, you've got your hand up there.
Yes, thank you, John. I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention that our next meeting is May 13th. It's a little bit later than usual just because of the way that the calendar falls. So so hopefully that would be enough time that we would be able to have Jamie, you come back for a public meeting at our next Concom meeting.
I think we could schedule it if everything shapes up that way and we're able to have the hybrid meeting beforehand and coordinate with folks and then finalize the public presentation. Our last presentation is public presentation in person. So I would love to make that May 13th meeting. I guess it doesn't only just depend on my timeline, but just continuing to collaborate with everybody on the team as well. but I'll
and
definitely put it on my calendar.
John, you had also questioned who else we might invite to that meeting. I know that we had mentioned the director of Parks and Rec, but I'm thinking also all of the board members would be great to invite them, as well as the members of the Community Preservation Committee. Especially since the CPC has
Money.
funded, right? Yeah,
And
funded
we'll
the
be looking for
study.
more money. They are definitely a stakeholder.
And we
Amazing.
will exactly and be looking for more money for the implementation. And if in fact we are able to have this phase of the project wrapped up by mid-May, then we could pursue funding for the implementation for the next round of CPA applications. And that first phase of that funding application is the end of May. So it would be tight, but we could do it.
Sounds like a good plan. Yeah, and you may want to talk to Tom about whether or not he wants to announce, a public meeting and have a joint public meeting in May, or at some point we'll definitely have to do that, but that might be at the actual public presentation. It's certainly a great idea to have. I mean, I know you have the eyes and ears of the Community Preservation Act committee here, and you're our designee there. But I'm just wondering whether or not at that first meeting it should be a joint public meeting for both committees. And others, or perhaps just representatives. But clearly, the next step after that, which would be the public announcement of this, and probably we could do it on site, as we did the site walk. But that's just it's just a thought down the road. But you're right; it's all within the mid to end of May, because we got to move pretty quickly on this, and funding will be critical to phase 2.
Right. Right. And since the funding is only open once a year, I would hate to miss this next round
I agree.
and then have to wait until 2026.
All right,
What
Jamie,
information,
I
I
don't know.
guess, would you need in order to apply for the CPC application in this round?
I'm sorry, Jamie, could you repeat your question, please?
What information or what final deliverables would you need in order to apply for the next round of CPC funding? For example, if we were to finalize the draft concept plan and costs, could, instead of having, if, like, for example, the presentation timing didn't work out, could the town still move forward with the CPC application, having in hand the preliminary cost estimates and conceptual design?
I think we could. I think the more finalized things would be, obviously, the better. The way that the CPA funding cycle works is that there's letters of intent that are due at the end of May, and then those initial applications that are considered to be in alignment with the regulations and to the liking of the committee, then they're invited to proceed to the next phase of the application process. And then that final application process is due at the end of September. So there would be, a few more months time that things could be finalized. My only concern would be that if we're still in the draft phase, when the letters of intent are due at the end of May, that it's possible that some committee members might not feel comfortable in proceeding to invite the commission to submit a full application. So, you know, I obviously I can't speak on behalf of the entire Community Preservation Committee, but I think that just generally speaking, the more that that we've finalized things and have a hopeful, strong support from the public, and as much of an idea of what the cost would be, the stronger our funding application will be.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I think I think we would definitely have the costs and the concept plan in hand by the end of May. Just not sure entirely. Maybe Arthur could speak more to, the timing of when we are thinking for the public presentation. Because we're still kind of fine tuning things with the internal team on that last task would be that public presentation. But I do agree. I think, having as much feedback and engagement with the public would only help this project spearhead forward with the CPC.
All right, sounds like a plan that we can move forward. And Arthur, if you'll work with Jamie, this is a question. Will you work with Jamie to see if we can get that concept plan and preliminary cost estimates ready to go by the May meeting, the 13th of May?
Sounds good.
Is that good, Arthur?
We'll be working on it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
all right. And
We
then
have no alternative.
and then why don't you
Wendy drove a hard bargain in her comment.
Wendy,
Yeah,
can you ask, I know the committee chair, that is the CPC chair,
Yes.
if he would or the committee would prefer a joint meeting or just have a representative, but somebody should be there in addition to you, obviously,
Yes.
at the May meeting.
In our
Either one
sidewalk,
is good with us.
our sidewalk, John, that we had, 18 months ago or so, on location was a joint meeting.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Right.
So we'll leave it up to him. If he wants a joint meeting, that's great. If he wants just to, have representatives, less than a quorum, that's great too. But they're a major stakeholder, and maybe we ought to, yeah. Arthur, what do you think about asking Sean McCanty to appear as well?
Absolutely, and a representative from Quincy.
Yeah, that would be good idea all around. All right, so Arthur, would you take care of inviting Sean and the representative from Quincy, whomever they want, and then Wendy, you'll take care of talking to the CPC folks?
Yes.
Will do.
Perfect.
So
All right, well, we look forward to that meeting.
just so I make sure that I'm understanding what it is that I'm asking of Tom. So we're hopefully going to be having Jamie come back to present at our next CPC meeting, at our next Conservation Commission meeting on May 13th. And then in addition to that, there's also going to be another in-person on-site presentation later.
That would be the public meeting. The latter one would be the public. They're both public meetings, and they'd be, properly announced, and notice would go out as to the open meeting law. But the first one is a Conservation Commission meeting to discuss the concept plan and the preliminary costs. And then it would be after that, according to Jamie's schedule, that she contemplates, having the public meeting, and that could be done on site as well. I think that's what, Jamie, you were contemplating, correct?
Yeah. It just this hybrid progress meeting we're trying to have a hybrid progress meeting before we finalize the plans and present to the public. And that's what this progress meeting is for. So in between the progress meeting, before or after the progress meeting, we'll have the meeting. I'll be back for the Conservation Commission meeting on May 13th. And then following that would be the public presentation.
Does that answer your question, Wendy?
No, I actually now I'm more confused. Jamie, did you say that you're actually going to be presenting to us 3 times? The hybrid progress meeting, the second bullet here on this screen, that is not our Conservation Commission meeting. That's something
No,
separate.
it's not. It's
Yeah,
different.
so what we had scoped for this project was after we provide the internal project town team that we've been working with the draft deliverable, the final draft deliverable that includes our write-up, our final conceptual design and cost estimating. We want to give some time for you guys to digest, and then we would have a hybrid progress meeting to get your overall feedback before we finalize those documents and have a public presentation. So that's what that hybrid meeting is for, and to also walk the project site and look at where the wooden stakes have been installed.
It's analogous to the meeting that we had earlier with the DPW staff, the select board.
That was referred to as a visioning meeting?
That's right.
Yeah, this meeting is basically the wrap up with the internal team before we meet or present to the public. So the May 13th meeting is a additional meeting. I would be happy to join virtually and provide another progress update as I have today.
So John and colleagues, we'd be able to take the input received from the second, if I can use the term, envisioning meeting into the preparation for the select board meeting. I mean, this is my old hat, the Conservation Commission meeting on May 13th. And then all of that would lead into the public presentation. So there's a nice order or sequence of steps.
Are you good, Wendy?
Yes, but except that I'm wondering now that it's more clear, and thank you for that. If it would make more sense for us to wait to invite the CPC until the final public presentation.
Right. That maybe I wasn't clear, but I was suggesting that if the chair would like to attend, it's not a quorum, even with you present, to have a representative from CPC at our May meeting. And then we could have the joint meeting of both the commission and the committee at the public hearing.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to. I don't think we need 2 joint meetings. If they would like to have it, that's fine with me. But I don't think it's necessary.
Right.
I just want to make sure that we get as much communication as possible. And that was the purpose of the first envisioning meeting, because we're trying to get people from Blue Cross Blue Shield, because they own the private land. So we're trying to get them involved. All the stakeholders were there, and Arthur went through the folks from Quincy, and the NEPRA people were there, Sean McCanty, and so that's kind of what I call a working group. So you're right. There are 3 steps. I don't think we need 2 joint meetings. And you may be the appropriate representative of the CPC at the May 13th meeting, but I think you should ask the chair if he would like others in attendance. Either short of a quorum, if he'd like a joint meeting, then fine. I don't think it's necessary, but whatever he wants.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Okay. All right, good. Anything else? Any members of the public have a question or comment? I can't see anybody with a hand up. I don't know if Steve can.
No, John.
Okay. Well, hearing none and seeing none, I think we're good, and we look forward to seeing you again in May, Jamie. Thank you very much for your presentation.
I'd just
Thank
like to
you.
add, Mr. Chairman, that Jamie and her colleagues have done a great job. And they've been a pleasure to work with, very collaborative, very cooperative, very responsive.
That's good news. That's
Thank you,
good news.
Arthur. It's great to work with you all as well. Have a good evening.
All right. Thank you.
Jamie.
All right, next on the agenda is number 3, Certificate of Compliance 485, 487 Blue Hills Parkway. That is the Ice House. And Charlie, I don't know where you are, but I think you should recuse yourself from this one. And I believe, I don't know, do we have somebody to present? I think we do.
We don't have anyone presenting, John.
All right, well, you'll certainly recuse yourself from the vote on this, but I have a question for you. We have been there for the public's benefit. The commission actually had a site walk just a couple of months ago, or a few months ago, when the applicant had agreed to extend the public walking path from the edge of the property. It's actually connected to the existing walking path around Pope's Pond. That was not on the original plan, but the applicant said, sure, we'll do it, which was good news to us. So the only, and Steve Ivas has been to the site, has inspected it. We've got the attestation from your engineer, and everything seems to be in order. And Steve, I'll turn it over to you, and you can certainly address the issue. But one of the questions I had was that we have a 2 growing season requirement for the plantings, and the plantings are pretty new, so we haven't gone through that. So I guess my question, and Charlie, now you're wearing a different hat, but can I ask you this? Do you need the certificate of compliance in its entirety at this point? Because we can address the building issue, but I think we should reserve on the plantings to make sure that we reach the performance standard by the State Wetlands Protection Act, that 75% of the plantings remain for 2 growing seasons. So is it necessary to split it is what I'm asking.
Well, I cannot speak for the building inspector. Under the order of conditions that were issued with the permit, we had to apply for sign off from the commission. Now, I don't believe that the building commissioner would have a problem, because this is pretty standard practice, as long as we had a certificate with a caveat of the plantings will be inspected in 24 months, or however you guys want to handle it.
Right, and we've done that before. We've made the certificate of compliance contingent upon achievement of that 75% survival after 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't know if there was some other, sometimes financing required, because we get this issue with new homes, and the purchaser of the home comes in and says, listen, I've got to clear it with the bank, and it puts pressure on them. So we sometimes carve out that 75% survival rate after 2 years.
Right now, we are not in that position.
Okay. All right. All right. So has everyone had an opportunity to read the attestation by Joe Murphy, PE 159 Pine Street, Quincy, Mass. We've got his stamp on here. And the magic words for the Conservation Commission for the public's benefit is that the PE says, I hereby certify the work has been satisfactorily completed and is in substantial conformance with noted plans. Those are the approved plans that we issued with the order of conditions. Steve, can you address that issue? Because you've been there recently and inspected the site.
Yes, I would agree entirely with that statement. Okay, substantially complete with the plans. I don't think I need to say anything more, do I?
Not from my perspective, no. Not at all. Questions
agree.
from commission members, comments, questions, commission members? Hearing none. What about members of the public, either abutters or any citizen?
Yeah, hi,
Any
John.
questions?
My name is
Hey,
Roy
Roy.
Chambers. How are you?
Good. Welcome.
I went down to the site today, and I was really happy to see that behind the building there, that they've set up public parking for people who want to walk around the pathway around Pope's Pond. So there's designated parking there. Then I went to walk down the pathway that heads down to Pope's Pond, and halfway down, there was an enormous tree has fallen over the pathway, forcing you to walk around through the brush to try to get down to the pathway. So I just want to bring that to your attention. Now I know who owns that property there, whether it's the commission or the property owners, but it's an enormous tree. It's right across the path that they have created there. Also, I do have a question. Oh, maybe Steve, you can answer this one. Right behind the building is a holding pond, quite large, probably 20 by 50 feet, that appears to be holding stormwater runoff that then flows into that holding pond, and it's especially with the rain recently, it's it's a couple feet deep, and then it flows into another pipe that goes into the Pine Tree Brook. Do we have anything? Do you know anything about that holding pond? I remember
Yes, we requested that. We had a number of large storms within the last year that created some issues. There was a sheet flow and some channelization heading from the parking area right down to the brook. And some of the siltation had gone from the property. So what we asked the applicant to do was to put in, some kind of environmental controls. And we didn't specify exactly what it was, but what the applicant did was to put in, I'm going to guess now, 4 feet wide crushed stone. There was a pretty large area to A, slow the water down, B, stop any kind of suspended solids from going through and silting into the wetlands. And we went out there and inspected that. And then there was another component to that because the property line is actually closer to the driveway than you might think. And the land on the other side is actually owned by the Conservation Commission. So we asked the applicant to kind of go outside the order of conditions and do some plantings on our side. When I say our, I'm talking about the Conservation Commission owned land. So they went back about another 50 feet or so, and I can't remember the number, but it's probably, I don't know, 40 to 50 shrubs that were put in there, or small trees. And it was, I'll call it a courtesy, because it wasn't part of the plan, but we needed help there. So as part of that project, both of replanting on our side of the property line and in retaining that water, a lot of the water was diverted to that detention basin. But that was done, we had engineering plans submitted to us. We looked at it, we approved the plan. And Steve, you can comment better than I can, but it seemed to work pretty well.
Yes, as a matter of fact, it's working extremely well. It works as a initial drop to any suspended solids in the runoff water there. So it's a very good thing to have. It'll need a little bit of O&M over the years, but that's an easy thing to do with heavy equipment.
all right.
I'm very happy with it there.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that it was something that the commission had agreed to, because it does flow into the Pine Tree Brook. The other thing is, do you have any follow-up on that tree? I mean, if you go down and take a look, it's a monstrous tree.
Charlie, I don't know. I haven't
I
seen
can-
it, but can you answer that?
Yeah, I can answer that for the commission and for Mr. Chambers. Yeah, that tree came down in the past week, and it is massive. It's probably 4 feet wide. We actually had a tree company come down there today because it's too big for our people to handle, and we don't want to bring heavy equipment into the conservation land because it is in conservation land. It is on Conservation Commission property. So that tree, we're going to handle it the same way that what the thought is, we handle that tree the same way that we handled the previous trees that came down, Steve, when we first met out there. We
Yes.
decided to cut the tree just where the path area is and leave the rest of it to nature.
In fact, that's a really good thing to do because there is a lot of class lessons you can have next to that tree. People walking by.
Mm.
Yeah, it'll be very educational for anybody walking by that tree to watch it deteriorate over the years.
Can somebody tell me if I'm walking from the apartments to the pond, what side of the trail the tree was on the right side or the left side?
No,
right
it's
across
right,
it.
it's directly through the trail, Tom, directly across it, 90 degrees.
If you were
Yeah,
walking on,
it fall from the right or the left.
It fell from the right and went
Yes.
left. So if you're standing with your back towards the apartments or the condos, it went from the right side across the path to the left. It was the biggest tree that was out there.
Oh,
I think that was somebody else was talking, excuse me. That was a swamp white oak. It was the biggest tree out there, and it's a long-lived, large tree. And it's too bad it went over because I was hoping that area was sort of firm and dry enough for it to hold on indefinitely. Would you say the wind blew it over?
Well, upon my visual, it looks like it was fairly rotted around the bottom.
Huh.
yeah,
So it broke off, huh?
yeah. The tree looked like it was totally dead anyways. And
Really?
just, that's the way it looked to me anyways.
I must be thinking of a different tree then.
Yeah.
Because this white
If
oak is
you,
healthy.
if you were walking along that pathway and that tree came down, you'd be a goner for sure.
Oh, for sure.
But it ruins the whole concept of having a pathway going down to the pond because now the
Oh, yeah.
pathway is blocked.
Yeah, it won't be for very long. We'll have them out there in the next 10 days to cut the midsection out and get the access to that pond to the Pope's back.
And then we can all watch it deteriorate,
Yeah,
and
that'll
you'll
be
see
cool.
some interesting things happen.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's actually a good thing. I look at it as a wonderful teaching lesson.
Well, I think the
We'll get a
best,
black bear to move into the stump hole.
the best lesson I think is that there's parking right there. So people can drive around down the back of the building and park a car there. They have signs designated that this is for people who want to walk the trail, which is nice. You got 4 or 5 cars that can park there. So then you just get on that pathway and you're right down to Pope's Pond.
Right, and Roy, so you know that was part of our original order of conditions, and I think it was part of the ZBA eligibility, the comprehensive permit as well.
Correct.
All right, so that was part of the plan, and I'm not trying to take it away from Charlie because we've been very courteous, including this tree. The tree, I don't know where it came from, the right to the left. I don't know if that's our land or your land or whose land it is, but we're very grateful for you jumping on board and cutting out the middle.
Happy to do it.
Thank you. All right, any other thoughts, comments, questions? All right, is there a motion to issue the certificate of compliance based upon the attestation by the professional engineer, Joe Murphy? The stamped attestation is in our packet, and also based upon the inspection by Steve Ivas, with the special condition that we will revisit the 2-year mark, 24-month mark to make sure that we've got 75 survival of the planting plan.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Arthur. Is there a second for that?
Second.
All right, thank you. So we'll go through a roll call vote. Is there any discussion first? Hearing none. Ingrid, how do you vote?
Aye.
Arthur?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Tom Palmer?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well, John Kiernan. Thank you very much. And there was one abstention, and Hans was not present, but other than that, it was unanimous. So thank you very much for your courtesy, and thanks, Roy, for your comments.
My pleasure.
We'll
All
see
right,
you out
next
there
one.
on the trail.
All
Mhm.
right.
I'm sure. The pond's alive and well.
All right, next on the agenda is number 4. That's notice of intent, Randolph Avenue, Route 28, Chickatobit Road. And this one's a big one. I know we've got sort of a digital file that's big. Do we have a presenter this evening?
Yeah, hi. Chris Lyman from Howard Stein Hudson. Also with me is Stephen Tyler, the PM from Howard Stein Hudson, and Courtney Walker from Mass DOT.
Oh, great. Thanks. Welcome to all of you.
Thank you.
Tell us what you're doing. It's a
Yep,
big one.
am I
What's
able
that?
to share screen? Am I able
Yes,
to share
you
my
are.
screen?
Right. Steve, you might need your help on this.
Yes. And that's for. Yep, maybe he's got it now.
Yep. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes.
There you go. Good. Good.
So the project that I'm going to discuss tonight is Mass DOT project intersection improvements at Route 28 Randolph Avenue at Chickatobit Road. This is adjacent to the parking lot next to the Blue Hills Reservation in Milton. The purpose of the project was basically to increase safety at this intersection location and add pedestrian and bicycle accommodations and connections at this location. This intersection continuously is a top 5 crash location in the state of Massachusetts. So really the big emphasis was increasing the safety at this intersection location. Mass DOT is proposing to replace the existing signalized intersection at this location at Randolph Avenue at Chickatobit Road with a roundabout. The proposed roundabout will maintain the 2-lane approach on Route 28 and the single-lane approach on Chickatobit Road. It is also proposing a 10-foot wide shared use path on all sides of the intersection to help have better and safer pedestrian and bicycle connections that will connect to the existing sidewalk network north of this intersection. We're also proposing 3 retaining walls in this project, and that's helped to limit the amount of impacts to resource areas around this project. So just to kind of go over some of the impacts for this project, the resource areas within this project are bordering vegetated wetlands, certified vernal pools that are within the BVW, endangered species habitat, and estimated rare species habitat. There's no other resource areas within these project limits, including ACECs, outstanding resource waters, or bordering lands subject to flooding. So I'm going to go over the impacts that are coming up from this project. The first being there's 652 square feet of temporary impact to BVW. Those impacts are from the installation of the sediment control barriers along the back of the wetlands here to stop any runoff from the construction going into the BVW itself. There's also 1,121 square feet of permanent impacts. Those are happening in 2 separate locations. The first one being down here between wetland flag 208 and 213, which is roughly 741 square feet of permanent impacts that are caused from the installation of the shared use path and sidewalk, which you can see here. The impact of this red section here, proposed guardrail, and the retaining wall. The retaining wall again was put in place to help limit the amount of impacts to the existing BVW. Along with lighting accommodations to help improve sightline and for both pedestrians and vehicular safety. There's also on the other side, there's roughly 320 square feet of BVW impacts. Again, these are mostly from a modular retaining wall that was put in place to limit the impacts to the BVW. As I also said, this project is located within endangered species habitat. But I do want to make the point that none of the BVW impacts are actually within the endangered species habitat. All the endangered species habitat is on the southern side of the project, which is this orange hashed area here. We did have a wetland habitat evaluation done by Lucas Environmental, and they found the wetland impact areas will not result in any substantial reduction in the site's overall capacity to provide important wildlife functions to this location. There's also some buffer zone impacts. There's some temporary buffer zone impacts of roughly 14,126 square feet, and that's mostly from the existing roadway reconstruction. There's some grading changes happening along there to better level out the intersection for better sight lines. There's also 57,394 square feet of permanent buffer zone impacts. And again, a lot of that's from the installation of the shared use path and the widening of the existing roadway pavement to make room for the proposed roundabout. To mitigate these impacts, we're proposing approximately a 1,300 square foot replication area directly adjacent to the permanent impact, the BVW. That can be seen in this magenta section here. And then there will be restoration of the temporary impacts along the sediment control barrier with a wetland seed mix. The wetland replication area is being designed with existing vegetation cover types, functions, values, and they'll provide more improvement to this BVW. The replicated wetland area will be graded to create a hydraulic gradient that supports the range of covers and types that were proposed for this project. And like I said, after the grading is complete of this wetland area and the construction is finalized, the sediment control barriers will be removed and a wetland seed mix will be put down to restore those temporary impacts. We were also proposing to include drainage updates at this location. One of them being updating the outfall at this location, basically just putting more stabilization rock at this stormwater outfall down here to better stabilize the bank of the outfall itself. And we'll be putting in silt sacks at all existing and proposed catch basins within the project limits. I don't know whether Courtney or Steve would like to add anything to what I've presented on so far.
Can I ask a question? And this is really not an environmental question, but and I know there are not a lot of pedestrians in this area, but there's a light there now, so it allows for pedestrian crossing. And I know it's a dangerous intersection, but if the rotary, how do you get people across there?
Yeah, so we have pedestrian hybrid beacons going in, so it's a form of a light. That is only on Route 28, so there'll be a pedestrian hybrid beacon. Basically, a pedestrian come or a bicycle come, press the button, and it'll initiate a stop control on the approaches on Route 28. So it'll give a protected crossing for pedestrians or bicyclists who are crossing. And then on Chickatawga Road here, and here we are proposing the flashing beacons at this location, which isn't a stop control, but it is the flashing beacons that at least alerts vehicular traffic that there is a pedestrian trying to enter the crosswalk.
Great. Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry, on this diagram right now, which way is north?
Yep. So north is to the right of the screen here, and south is to the left of the screen.
All right. So the barn that we inspected a few years, well, probably more than a few years now, probably 5 or 6 years. There was going to be rehabbed or moved or something. Is to the right side of the diagram?
Yep. Let me. I can
Might be
I can
right
pull
off
that.
right off the diagram.
Yeah, I can pull up the sheet. I think the barn you're talking about is this structure right here, this wooden barn structure right here. That's at the, I guess, the southern limits of the project.
Yeah, because we had seen some wetlands in that area when we were there a few years back.
Yes,
Yeah,
in
so
fact, they're on the plan, John.
Yeah.
yeah, we've added the wetland here, and given that buffer zone, as I said, and from that wetland, there is some permanent and temporary buffer zone impacts from that wetland, strictly in this location where we're adding the sidewalk, and you can see we're slightly widening the roadway here to accommodate the roundabout.
Good. Okay. Yeah, that was just orientation.
Chris,
Question.
how
Thank
far
you.
south is that sidewalk going? Is it going down to the barn?
No, it does not go down to the barn. So you can see the barns here, and the sidewalk. Well, the sidewalk or the shared use path stops at this location right here. So it's only a couple 100 feet, I guess you call it, south of the existing intersection.
Okay, thank you.
Well, can I ask why a rotary is now a roundabout? Because it's the same thing, right?
I know that specifically the terminology we're using is for the roundabout. It's basically has to do with the size and the function of a roundabout. Again, like rotaries aren't always roundabouts, but roundabouts are a form of a rotary. If that makes sense. The roundabouts are strictly a certain size, and they try to minimize speed of traffic entering and exiting the intersection.
As I look at this, and I look at I guess would be the southeast quadrant here. I don't see any. You didn't put up an existing condition plan, which would help us understand how this relates to what's there now. And I know in that quadrant there is a parking lot, and it also has a gate that extends across Chickatawba Road. What's happening to that parking lot and that gate?
Yes. So you're talking about this location down here. There's a parking lot. So we are part of this project is reconstructing part of this parking lot here at this location. And if you go farther up Chickatawba Road, let me just go one more here so you can get a better look of this side, just so you can get a better orientation. So this is the parking lot you're talking about here. This is the parking lot to the Blue Hills Reservation here. And the gate structure you are talking about is right here. You can kind of see the existing gate structure here. We are maintaining those gate structures right now. Right now, we're just removing and resetting it as part of this project. So those gates will be remaining.
To me, the mitigation of that project should include a consideration of how to increase the value of the priority habitat here. And what I'm talking about is trying to prevent animals from being run over, which is a common cause of death. I think the project as a whole is permittable for wetland impacts, as you're suggesting, but it should take some imagination and creativity to address this habitat issue.
Yeah, we did submit a MISA checklist and a copy of this NOI to National Heritage. We've also been talking with Fish and Wildlife about that exact issue you just brought up. It wasn't in the scope of this project, but we have been talking to Fish and Wildlife, and they've been talking about potentially putting in gates, updated gates to help, again, get seasonal closures for this location. But that is not in the scope of this project. But we have been working along with Mass DOT and Fish and Wildlife and DCR to work with that potential problem of endangered species and species getting hit in this location.
Thank you. And one more remark. As you go south on 28 from here, you're going through the reservation. Very popular for people to visit. And many people park on Route 28 to the south, particularly beyond the wetland that is at the southwest slope of Chickatawba Hill. And I'm one of those people who often parks on 28 to visit the park. And when I get back in my car, I have to get back onto 28. And the way I'm able to do that is the light that's there now creates breaks in the traffic where there'll be a little gap where no car is coming. And will those gaps still happen when that light is replaced by this proposal?
I don't know if, I know we've been talking to other residents there too about the same concerns about gaps happening at their driveways. Again, there is a potential that those gaps might be less significant. But Steve, I don't know if you wanted to add anything about it specifically, because I know we've been doing, some memos too about those specific gaps that were caused by the existing signalized intersection.
Sure, Chris, I'll jump in if allowed through the chair.
Sure. Thank you.
My name is Steve Tyler with Howard Stein Hudson. In answer to Mr. Palmer's question, there is a difference in gaps expected. Separately, there's been some corridor studies that are kind of looking at that effect and what effect it has for people pulling out and so forth. So those are available, but there will be a change in conditions on the Route 28 corridor with the change from a signal to a roundabout.
I think that answered your question, Tom.
Well, another question.
Doesn't sound good, but
yeah, another question is, as I look at the topos, the difference in grade from one side of this rotary to the other is about 10 feet. And when I first heard about the idea, I wondered, well, how do you put a rotary on the side of a hill? So I guess my question is, how much cutting and filling do you have to do to fit this flat structure on a slope?
I don't have the exact number of the amount of cut and fill we have, but again, there is some cut and fill happening. Like you said, most parts of the roadway are being, again, raised up to allow for a more flatter intersection to improve safety for sight distance at this location, both for vehicles and pedestrians. And that's the whole reason why we also put in some of the retaining walls to help mitigate some of the impacts that would happen from us, changing some of the elevations of this intersection. Because if we were to have to improve the sight lines with a signalized intersection, sometimes the retaining walls wouldn't necessarily be an option. It could lead to a greater impact to the resource areas. But yeah, there is a good amount of cut and fill happening at this location to, like you said, more flatten out this intersection to put in this roundabout.
Oh, one more follow-up to what John Kiernan said. You said there will be pedestrian cross on Route 28 south of the roundabout. Will there be pedestrian crossings? Will there be 4 of them? Will there pedestrian crossings at every side of this?
Yeah, so if you look at the plan out here, there is pedestrian crossings at all 4 legs of the roundabout itself. On Route 28, because of the higher speeds and the higher vehicle traffic at this location, we are putting in actual pedestrian hybrid beacons, as we call them. They're a stop control that basically is a red light that stops traffic and allows pedestrians to cross in a controlled intersection. Whereas on the Chickatawba Road, where the speeds are a little bit less, we're putting in flashing beacons to again warn that there's a pedestrian wanting to enter the crosswalk to cross the intersection. But yes, there is crossings at all 4 legs of the intersection.
Thank you.
So is the wetlands currently flagged?
I believe they are, yes.
Okay, because I'd like to take a site walk there. I think it's appropriate. But I just want to make sure it's done under, safe conditions for all of us, because it is a difficult traffic area. I think there'd be places for us to park, either at the barn on 28 or Chickatobit Road, right where that fence, the gate is that Tom was mentioning. There's an area there. Is anybody else interested in a site walk? Commission members?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. We typically do this on Saturday morning. Is that something that you could accommodate?
I should be able to, yes.
Very good. What, everybody, if you would, look at your calendar to see whether or not we can plan one in the next, well, certainly within the next month. Dates in May? How about next Saturday? Let's go through the, Wendy, can you make, I'm just making it up. I don't have a preference for one Saturday or another.
John, that's the Saturday before Easter, and some families may have.
Perfect. How about the following Saturday?
Works for me.
What's the date on it?
That's the 19th.
26. The 26th. I'll be out of town on the 26th.
26th. No, I won't be able to make it.
So wait a minute, which one is Easter? Is it
19.
The 19th.
Yeah,
well,
Easter is
yeah, but Arthur, which one were you talking about? The 19th or the 12th?
No, you mentioned the 19th, and I said that.
No, I said next Saturday.
Oh, next Saturday. You mean this coming Saturday?
Yeah, yes.
It depends upon.
It depends
That'd
about
be
next.
Saturday.
How you
What do you mean by
next?
next?
This coming Saturday is the 12th. Is that the date you mean?
You're right. I'm just throwing out dates to see what's most convenient for most people. So we've got 12, 19, 26, and what's the one after that?
That's it.
The what?
In
I don't
April,
think there's one
yes.
after the 26th.
Is what?
3rd of May.
May 3rd.
May, okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, so 12's too soon, 19 is Easter, 26 and the May 3rd. That looks to be our choices. Right? So let me just go, who can do the 26th? Wendy, you said no. Let me see if we can get a quorum. Ingrid, can you do the 26th?
no.
That's 2 no's. We're getting close here. Arthur?
Okay.
Okay. And I can do that day. Tom Palmer? Tom, you might be on mute. I'm not sure. Charlie, are you back? I don't see you.
I'm available.
All right, good. All right, so let's do the same thing for May 3rd. Wendy?
I can do May 3rd.
Good, okay. Ingrid?
Hold on. I can do it. Would have to leave by 10.
Okay. We can start up to Wendy, but we can start as early as you want. But no, that if we started at 8:30, I'm sure you'd be out of there by 10. We're not gonna be that long. How about Arthur? Can you do the 3rd?
Yes.
Okay, Tom Palmer? May 3rd? We lost him. Charlie, can you do the 3rd?
Yes, I can.
Okay, and I can do the 3rd. So we've got a quorum. Let's do May 3rd. We'll start at 8:30. And we can meet. We should probably try to, have as few cars as possible. Maybe we can kind of team up and because there should be sufficient parking. If you're going up Randolph Avenue, take a left on Chickatobit. There's a parking area immediately on your right where the gate is.
It's not very big though. It's pretty small. Not many cars fit there.
I don't know, 3. I'm just guessing. The barn is across the street. We still have the traffic lights. So the barn, if you continue towards Randolph, the barn is there's a driveway you can pull in there. I'm not sure you can call it a driveway, but there's room for a couple of cars there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
okay,
at
we'll
least,
figure
at
it
least
out.
3 cars, John,
Okay.
in front of the barn.
Right, and we've been there before. So between those two spots, we should be able to find sufficient safe spot. But we'll try to meet near where the gate is on Chickatobit Road. By the way, has that house been sold? Did DOT buy the state buy the house? The last one on the left as you're heading towards Randolph?
The state, the house within this project with the wetlands replication area has been acquired by the state.
All right, so what I'm really asking is it empty? Because they've got a driveway, I think.
Oh, it's empty. They're
All right, so
out.
we could park in that driveway
Park
too.
there. Mhm.
Okay, good. All right, so 8:30, May 3rd, Saturday, on site. Perfect. Any other questions, commissioners, members of the public, abutters or not? Seeing none and hearing no other questions, we'll see you on May 3rd. Thank you very much for your.
If I may just follow up.
Sure.
Please. Yeah, so understood, site walk on May 3rd.
Yes.
So I think technically, are we continuing the hearing to the next session and trying to close it out then with anything follow up after the site visit?
I
Yes.
think the answer is we'll certainly try to do that, right, but there might be. I
Yeah,
don't know.
understood. And,
Okay.
and what is the date of that hearing?
Oh, that's a public meeting. That site inspection, we announce those as a public meeting, so we can vote at the meeting.
Okay, didn't follow that part. Then we will see you at the meeting. I actually won't be at the meeting. I'll be out of town that day, but Chris will certainly be there and likely representatives from Mass DOT.
Okay, great. So we have your assent then to continue this meeting, correct?
Courtney?
Yep. And it's my understanding we don't have a DEP record number for this project as of yet either.
Right.
So we would have to continue anyways.
Got it. Okay. And thanks. And Steve, I think you know this, but we can't vote unless there's a DEP number.
That's right.
All right. So we'll see you on the 3rd. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda is order conditions 24 Wentworth Farm Road. Continued hearing. Ned, you're here.
I'm
Probably
here,
others.
and-
Hey, Jim
Yep.
Burke, there you are.
Jim Burke is here. Deb Keller, I understand, is not here, but she has submitted a comment letter that I think is pretty favorable. I know that she and Jim went back and forth a couple of times and some final plan details. And so with that, I would ask if Jim can share a screen, show the final, what we hope is the final plan, both with respect to the infiltration and level spreader area, as well as the proposal for the chinking of the wall to fill in the gaps in the big stone wall.
Okay. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Jim.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so what Ned said is correct. We went back and forth. The thing that was continued this last time was the detail for the wall. That's over here in this part of the wall, part of the plan. And basically, I sent a letter with it as well with this construction narrative. Basically, remove vegetation, fill in the voids with crushed stone, tamp it down, and follow up with a larger stone on the top and tamp that down. I'd ask you, John, specifically, since this was a major concern of yours, if this is satisfactory.
Yeah, yes, and I have I note carefully the discussions we've had in the past, and I did read Deb Keller's recommendations as well. So the simple answer to your question is yes.
Okay, that's good news. And then as far as what Deb added to the drainage from the previous plan was that she added about 100 cubic feet of storage with stone on the top and the bottom while maintaining the elevations, which was brilliant, and added some additional overflows which allow larger storm events to pass through easier as opposed to backing up. And again, brilliant. So she made the plan better, and client's happy with it. And as long as you guys are happy with it, I think we're ready to go.
All right,
Jim, I
questions?
think
Go
this
ahead.
is Steve Ivis. I think Deb did a wonderful job.
Thanks, Steve.
You don't get any credit, Jim, at all.
Are you kidding? She's not here. She's not here.
It's too bad. She did a great job. Jim did a great job. The two of them worked well together, which is always helpful. And
Thanks, Ned.
Sorry, Jim.
and you're right. We have a client who's pleased if this is the final plan, he's pleased with it. He's ready to get to it immediately, and appreciates the consideration given by the commission as we've moved through, what has not been an easy process.
All right, now
Jim,
when you asked me the question, as to whether or not I was okay with the stone wall component of it, and the answer was yes. But I'd like to hear from other commission members. Tom, Palmer, Wendy. I mean, we were all there and saw the potential breakout areas. When I say potential breakout, I'm talking about the sedimentation that we saw. After listening to Deb and everybody speaking about it, I'm comfortable with the crushed stone and tapped stone, the larger stones, as a mechanism to do that without sealing it off, which creates another set of problems. So I'm okay with it, but I'd like to hear from others.
John, this is Arthur. This solution addresses the concerns I had, and I'm very pleased with the resolution for us.
Good.
Yeah, John, it's Charlie. I agree with Arthur. This looks good.
Right, Tom, Wendy, Ingrid.
Nothing to add.
All right.
Yeah, I also know that Deb commented on the detention area within the circle. It's not part of this plan, but she had some additional, I think, a recommendation to remove the wood chips and replace with crushed stone. And I don't know if there's a mechanism that the commission can undertake to try and force that type of change, but that would be an improvement. Drainage as it comes down, potentially down the driveway into the client's property.
Yeah, it's a fair question. It's really outside the scope of this enforcement order, but it does have a direct impact on your client's driveway, because when it overflows, it goes right down the driveway.
Right.
So I think it's a fair question. My response is actually more of a question. It's my understanding that the homeowners organization is now up and running, whereas it wasn't before. And I think that if it was your comment, Ned, or I think it was in Deb Keller's note as well, that there should be some kind of an O&M plan for this. And certainly part of it would be shifting from the mulch. I think it's back to crushed stone, because I think it started with crushed stone. And then they made it look pretty, and they put in the mulch. But and Steve, I'll defer to you on this, but do you think the crushed stone is better than the mulch? Because we all saw what happened to the mulch. It went into the center.
Yes, it's much better because the mulch gets put into the water column, ends up on the surface, and then stops up the beehive.
Right.
And then causes flooding. It's too bad, but it does look nice, but it doesn't work in that location. And speaking of stone, Jim, would you let me know when they start chinking? I'd like to watch the process.
I think you probably should give Ted a call, because he's probably doing it. But
Ted.
I'll certainly let you know.
Thank you.
Who is Ted?
Ted Dobbins. He's a contractor, a mason, a jack of all trades. Good man.
Yes, I would agree, and he lives in Norwell.
He must be a good guy. All right.
That's right.
All right. So it looks like these plans are appropriate. And now this is a notice of intent. And I think we should probably address this, because I think it came up at one of the earlier meetings. The enforcement order that started this whole process was because there was a violation of the terms and conditions of our original order of notice. So I want to know if any, and I'm not advocating one way or the other. I'm asking a question as to whether or not anyone thinks a fine would be appropriate for the original enforcement order that brought us to this point right now of apparent agreement. So speak up if you do. I'm not suggesting one or not one.
John, I think the homeowner has been through a lot. And I would say no fine. I'm very happy that they're doing the work.
Anybody else comments, thoughts? All right. Steve, I think you're right. I mean, it's the end result that we're looking for.
Right.
And this is one I know the homeowner has gone through, and I'll remind everybody that under Chapter 44, Section 53G, the costs of Deb Keller assisting us was borne by the applicant. So I do appreciate that portion of it. So hearing no suggestion that there be a fine imposed, and I guess the only issue, this is a notice of intent. So is there a motion to approve an order of conditions as a result of this notice of intent to fix the enforcement order? Is there such a motion? I'm not hearing one.
There is, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All right. Yeah, there was a second, Arthur's motion?
Charlie.
Charlie, you get the second. Okay, perfect. Thanks. Is there any discussion? I should have asked, are there any comments before we even got to this stage from abutters or members of the public? Which might be important because the homeowners association are all neighbors. But seeing none, a motion's been made, it's been seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll go through a roll call vote for this. Ingrid, how do you vote?
Yes.
Arthur?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Charlie?
Yes.
Tom? Do we lose him?
I don't see Tom available right now.
He disappeared about 20 minutes ago.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I joined Ken
At
and
least
vote
from the screen.
yes as well. So you're good to go.
Great.
Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Long process.
Take care.
Appreciate your patience.
No, and thank you for your patience as well, because it's been and it's been a much more iterative process than
And
a lot of these
expected.
processes are. So we appreciate it.
Good. All right. Thanks all.
Good night,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Next on the agenda is electronic signatures for the Conservation Commission. And I had at Philip's suggestion, which would make his life much easier rather than chasing us. I did talk to Peter Mello. Peter Mello followed up with an analysis of what was needed to shift to electronic signature. It's a little bit, it's not problematic.
Cumbersome. It's cumbersome, John.
Cumbersome.
Cumbersome.
Yeah, that's a good word. That's a good word.
Yeah.
But Peter was kind enough to do an assessment and analysis for the Conservation Commission, came up with this procedure that was concluded in your packet is something produced by I guess the MSMCP board member, which is very, very helpful. Peter sent that on to us. But in the meantime, he did talk to Nick Milano to involve the town to see what we needed to do and make sure that there was full coordination, because this is an issue that's come up for a number of different town boards. So Nick has been involved in this, and he's in agreement. So Peter and Nick and I all spoke, and this is the result of what we've got here before you. It is important to read it because it's a kind of a phased-in project for us. First, we have to, at a public meeting, it's on the agenda, so this is the public meeting, we have to take a vote. And if we get there, the motion will be, and it's in quotes, under process to allow the use of electronic signatures on wetland permits. And the motion will be, if you so approve, to hereby recognize and accept the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 110G, regarding electronic signatures, and that its members, meaning our members, will henceforth execute documents either with electronic signatures or with wet ink signatures, and that both will carry the same legal weight and effect. Said motion must be seconded and a roll call vote taken. The majority of the commission must say aye. Now, That's step one. Step two is that we must, record that and send it to the town clerk, and Susan Galvin will be able to say, okay, give us a true attested copy. And then the third step is the true attested copy of the vote must be recorded at the Registry of Deeds. And once we have the book and page numbers, then we can go to the fourth step, which is that we have to change our forms so that the signature line on our whatever notice of intent or whatever we're signing has to say, by vote on such and such a day, the individual listed below have accepted the provisions of Mass General Laws 110G regarding electronic signatures, members, and henceforth execute blah, 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 all the way through. And then we have to cite to the Registry of Deeds, book and page number, as to where it's been recorded. So cumbersome is a courteous way of saying it. You are correct. And then the caveat here is if we're talking about registered land, it doesn't work because this is only been approved by the court, viewing 110G for recorded land, not for registered land. So we're going to have to take a second look at the applications coming in. If it's an RDA, if it's a notice of intent, we have to take a look and make sure it's recorded land. Most of the land in Milton is recorded land, but there are occasions when there could be registered land. So, Philip, making part of your life easier might make others more difficult. But we could certainly ask the people when they file a notice of intent as to whether or not they have a book and page number. Once they give you a book and page, we'll know that it's in the registry, not in the land court. So with all that, which is laid out pretty neatly on the first page of what was in our packet, is there any discussion, comments, questions, thoughts as to whether or not we should proceed in this direction? I do. It sounds cumbersome, but it'll make Philip's life a lot easier rather than chasing us.
Mhm.
Any thoughts? Good idea, bad idea? Support it, not support it?
John, it's Charlie. I think the whole idea behind electronic signatures is to make the whole process quicker and easier.
Yes.
It doesn't sound like we're doing that. It sounds like we're making it more complicated.
Yeah, the steps to get there I agree, it's pretty cumbersome. But once we do it once, that is, if we take a vote tonight, and then we have Sue Galvin, attest that, yep, they took a vote, and then we can take that attestation and we get over to the Registry of Deeds, we file it there. I think there's a, I don't know, $25 filing fee. And they assign it a book and page number. And then.
Oh, but it's one time only, John?
Yes. Yeah, it's just the one time we record it. And then we have to change our form. So the form that we've been signing just says, signatures of the Conservation Commission. We have to have another piece of paper that said we have approved by vote of the Conservation Commission electronic signatures, and that vote is recorded but it has to be just written once. Once it's part of our form, then it's over. It's cumbersome to get there, but it's kind of a one-off burden, and then after that we have the electronic signature.
Well, if it's a one-time thing, then I think it would be worth it. I was concerned that it was every time we did this.
Oh no,
just
right.
once. What's that? I'm sorry, Ingrid, did you say something, or Wendy?
No.
Okay, all right. So is there a consensus that this is a good idea? I think it is. It's a pain in the neck to get through the process, but once we're through it, I think it'll help Philip immensely. All right. A phone call, is that Tom? Did you call back in?
Yeah, I'm on the phone now, my computer. I had bad indigestion.
Okay.
How to put that way.
It's 15 years old. I need another one.
Thanks, Tom. Any thoughts on this? I think the design is to make it easier. It looks a little cumbersome to start, but I think it will make it easier for Philip.
And us too.
Yeah, oh, you're right. Yeah, getting up
Yeah.
to the DPW yard.
Mhm.
All right. So it looks like there's a consensus that we can move forward. And based on, are there any comments from the members of the public? If there are any left, I don't see anybody. Foster Mackey is there. So hearing no comments, I will make the motion because the motion has to be very specific. So I'm going to quote the language that you see. So I'm going to make a motion that we, the Milton Conservation Commission, um, vote to approve a motion that we, the MCC, hereby recognize and accept the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 110G, regarding electronic signatures, and that its members will henceforth execute documents either with electronic signatures or with wet ink signatures, and that both will carry the same legal weight and effect, period, end quote. That's the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Wendy, I saw you first, so Wendy gets the second. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll take a roll call vote. Ingrid, how do you vote?
Aye.
Arthur, how do you vote?
Aye.
Wendy?
Yes.
Charlie?
Yes.
Tom Palmer?
Yes.
And I, John Kieran, vote yes as well. So that's unanimous. So we'll have to type that up tomorrow. I'll call you in the morning, Philip. But the quote is actually, I just took it right off of the piece of paper that I got from the town council, Peter Mello.
Okay.
Then we can get that to Sue Galvin and she can attest that the vote was taken on April 8th. And once she does the attestation, then we can record it in the registry of deeds.
Very good.
So that's good. Progress.
Mhm.
Cumbersome, but still progress. Oh, and then after that, Philip, once it's recorded, we'll have the book and page. We'll have to go back and we can probably just have another piece of paper that says that. I don't know, because I think we're using a DEP form.
Right.
So maybe we just need to append to that another piece of paper that says this, the vote, the resolution was, and it can be found at book and page number.
Right.
So
And I can check with Alicia too.
All right, perfect. All right, good, thanks. Next is approval of meeting minutes, March 11th, 2025. I read them. I didn't have any edits. Anybody?
None here.
Ingrid, quiet revision?
Yeah, on item 3, there's 2 typos. Was no, WASNO should have a space between the S and the N. And then there's another typo, PAIO. I'm thinking it should be the word patio.
Where are you? What number?
Item number 3.
Got it, okay.
Thank you, Ingrid.
That's it.
Jeez. She caught you, Steve.
I know.
Right.
That's okay. She made it better. She made it better. That's all we worry about.
All right. Any other proposed revisions? Hearing none, seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as revised. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Ingrid. I saw that. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Ingrid, how do you vote?
Yes.
Arthur?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Charlie?
Yes.
Tom Palmer?
Yes.
And I, John Kieran, vote yes as well. So that's done. Perfect. Number 8 is new business. Steve, any new business?
Well, Mr. Mackey is here, probably with a plan that he wanted to show us.
Okay.
I think we should take that up, if you don't mind.
Yes, sir. Is this 94?
94 Parkwood.
Perfect.
Yes, hi, good evening, everyone.
Good, thank you. Welcome.
Submitted the plan earlier this week, and I guess in terms of what I think is most relevant, this plan is from 2023, just in terms of design for the pool renovation project. I think most relevant for the commission, the contractor planning to perform the work has specified silt sock around the entirety of the wetland boundary area. So in the approximately the 25-foot boundary area, stretching from as you folks walked the property last weekend, the foundation, that stone wall that you may remember on the right-hand side of the property, all the way around the pool area to the back. So just wanted to, I think, Thomas, it may have been you that had asked for the plans. This is what we are planning on doing, with a few exceptions. We're not replacing the pool. The pool is going to remain as is. The pool shed, pool equipment, everything's going to remain exactly as it is, where it is, and just be upgraded. So wanted to make sure you got a chance to see these plans, but no other changes that I thought was relevant for the commission.
Well, there was one thing that we talked about at your home, but you just
go ahead.
said no other changes. I think when I read the plan, it looked like you did exactly what we asked for. That is the closed circuit filter system.
Yes, planning on a closed filter system with a backwashing pit, silt socking the whole area. And then I think there was also a question about how we were planning to repair the eroding area. And so the contractor is planning to just install some of the existing boulders that are right there under the ground, right underneath the that footing area or that eroding area, and backfill. That would be inside the silt sock location.
Okay. Do you know how much fill that they're going to have to bring in for that? Or can they just do it with big
Yeah, I
stones?
don't think it's much, John. I think it's taking fill from where it's eroded and putting it back. So there's a few boulders back there that, you know, are existing, and they're planning on recessing those into the hillside and then backfilling with existing material.
All right. I've got a real odd question for you. What
I'll
is
do my
there
best to
now?
answer it.
They look like old-fashioned weights. Those round, what are they?
Yes.
What are they?
You're right. Those are it's just, you can tell the area I think was built up over the course of time. Everything that's there is fill from what I assume is the Boston Edison plant from when this was done back in the 80s, prior to when I owned the home. But there's a lot of stuff back there. There's weights, there's brick, there's a bunch of different odd pieces of material that are in that fill. So I don't exactly know what those are.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Questions from commissioners? And my concern, I think I stated it, was if we had a closed circuit filtration system, that's a benefit because they're so close to the stream there. But that was my concern. So I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, understood.
Any other comments, questions? Nope. All right. Now this was actually on the agenda for Saturday, which was a public meeting. So it's been continued. So it's on this agenda. And it was, I don't have it in front of us. This was a notice of intent, correct?
This was an RDA, John. This was per my first meeting with Steve.
Okay.
We just thought that's what would be required.
Yep. All right. So my suggestion is that we do a negative determination with special conditions. And the special conditions were that the filtration system is going to be changed to what I call closed circuit, so that there's no discharge of chlorinated water into the nearby stream. That's been done, agreed to. The second one is we've got the silt sock at the 25-foot mark to protect against erosion into the stream. We do have standard ones, Foster, which include that there'll be no overnight storage or refueling of heavy equipment within our jurisdiction. So if you need a backhoe or an excavator or something, you can't leave it there overnight, and you can't refuel it within our jurisdiction.
Got it.
We've got the pool, we've got the erosion controls, overnight storage of equipment, refueling of equipment. Any other special conditions? Any commission members?
We should consider getting the trees out ASAP. The trees that are over the pool.
Broken trees. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And for the public's benefit, we talked about that, and I think everybody there agreed that that's a maintenance issue, that doesn't require any kind of a filing. Those trees were not just dead, they were out of the ground and leaning precariously. So yes, you have our authority to perform the necessary maintenance to get them out of there.
Appreciate that. Can I ask you a question about the storage of the equipment? Just in terms, I don't know what my contractor's plans are, but if he's planning on bringing them outside of the wetland buffer zone, is that acceptable, or is it truly removing the equipment every single night?
It's getting it out of it's 100 feet from the stream.
100 feet. Got it.
All right. And I don't want to step on overnight parking rules that the police might have, or DPW.
Understood.
I don't know, but just
okay, fair enough. Yep.
Have them get it out of our jurisdiction. That's 100 feet from the stream.
Okay.
All right. Thanks. Anything else? Comments, questions, abutters, members of the public, commission members? All right. Is there a motion then to issue a negative determination of the request for determination of applicability with the special conditions that we just mentioned?
This meeting is being recorded.
Missed that one. Hey, you're back, Tom.
Yeah,
sort
so,
of.
You might be echoing if that's your phone as well as.
Yeah, I'll turn the phone off.
All right. All right. Any thoughts, questions, comments, Tom? I think you're on mute.
You're muted, Tom.
Did you hear my question, Tom?
no, I'm good.
All right. So is there a motion to issue a negative determination of the request for determination of applicability?
So moved.
All right. Thanks, Tom. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Charlie. Any discussion? Hearing none. Ingrid, how do you vote?
Aye.
Arthur?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Charlie?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
And I, John Kiernan, vote yes as well. So that's unanimous. So, all right. Did you follow all that, Foster?
I got it all. Thank you, John.
All right.
Thank you, Commission.
All right,
Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks all.
Have a good night.
Yeah, thank you. And that was under additional business. And is there any other additional business? Anybody? Steve, Arthur?
John, yes. I was
Good.
approached by Mr. Hannigan regarding 37 Robbins. And he had a very strange question for me. He asked me to go and take a look at that site and tell the owners that the trees were doing fine. I'm not sure why he asked me the question. It might have been concerning a partial COC or something.
Yeah,
And
is
I'm
that the
just looking-
75%? I mean, they just planted them. Or have they planted
Exactly.
them?
Exactly. So that's what I sort of tried to indicate to Mr. Hannigan. I will have a chat with him and have a discussion with him. That's all. Okay.
Right, but I think we could do the same thing and I suspect that homeowner has got, bank financing issues because it's a new home. So they may require a sort of a partial.
Yes.
What we've done in the past is have a partial. We've even had people put up bonds, and they're pretty cheap. The bonds
Sure.
to protect against replanting and be sufficient money for a landscape plan to replant if 75% did not fail. So this is workable. But if you could find out more what he's looking for.
Very
Because
good. Thank you.
we can't just ignore the 75%.
Request.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's a state performance standard for us.
Yes, it is. Right.
All right, so y'all get back to Bob on that?
I shall. Thank you.
All right, good. Arthur, any new
And-
business? Steve, I didn't mean to cut you off, Steve. I'm sorry.
And we're still waiting for another plan for 1034 Blue Hill Ave, just to let you know.
Got it. Okay. Are you good, Steve?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, Arthur?
A couple of quick things, John. Climate Action Planning Committee that I'm the representative to from the Conservation Commission finished its report and has submitted it to the Select Board. I'd like to have it submitted to the Conservation Commission so that all the Conservation Commission members can review it and make any comments that they wish, and maybe we could have that on the agenda for our next meeting in terms of input, if that's acceptable to you and to the others.
It certainly is to me. Makes sense. How long is the report?
It's fairly lengthy. It's
I, know,
30.
I thought I saw it in your hand.
No. This is a 3-page document. This is the flooding and stormwater section of the report. The report is about 31 pages long.
Okay. All right.
Totality, but all of the areas wouldn't pertain to members of the Conservation Commission.
Oh, that's
And
great.
Arthur, what was the name of that report?
Climate Action Planning Committee report and recommendations. That's what it is. I'll get you the formal title.
Climate Action Planning Committee.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'll help you out with the formal title. Be happy to, Steve. Now, the second point on that is that one of the recommendations in the flooding and stormwater area is an action to support a legislative act accelerating wetland restorations. There's a bill in the House and there's a bill in the Senate pertaining to regional resilience and flood protection. This is being widely endorsed throughout the Commonwealth, and it essentially accelerates or calls for an acceleration of wetlands restoration, which applies to what we were discussing earlier this week, this night, with respect to the 33 acres off Cortlandt Circle and the minutes that were approved a couple of minutes ago relative to salt marsh restorations. So maybe this would be on the agenda as well, so that the Conservation Commission might endorse these two matters of legislation, calling for an acceleration of wetlands restoration in the Commonwealth.
You said, Arthur, that it's widely endorsed.
Being widely endorsed, right, by
whom?
organizations, Audubon Society, Boston Harbor Now, the Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissions, the Nature Conservancy, the Trustees of Reservations, just to add a few.
Okay.
Of the endorsees.
All right. So are you able to send that to us digitally so that we'll have a chance to read whatever it is? Because I know it sounds good. Accelerate the wetlands restoration, but
Correct.
I don't know if it's consistent with existing performance standards or if it's changing those performance standards. Like is there a different remediation ratio or something like that?
Do you want me to prepare it in such a way that Phil sends it out in the packet, or do you want me to send these two out electronically so that commission members have an opportunity to review them between now and?
Yeah, I think that early, and if you can do it electronically, that gives us a chance.
I can, and I will.
That's perfect.
I'll put a little brief narrative with it so that people understand where to go and what to look at.
All right, great.
And the only other thing, John and colleagues, is that the signs are in for the Conservation Commission. I'll be meeting with DPW staff next Tuesday, and we will cite 5 of them, and then there will be 5 signs left for us to work with after that.
That's good. And apropos of the signs, I noticed, and I think some of us went Unquity Road when we were going up to, we went off of Unquity, went on Holland Street when we were going up to 1250 Randolph Avenue, going from one site to the next last Saturday. And when I got onto Holland Street, I was and Tom, I know y'all be aware of this, but I was very aware of the water elevation. I mean, it's only about 1.5 feet below the street level. So I called Tom Hamilton because he lives on Holland Street. And I said, have you seen how high the water is? And he said, John, it's always that high.
Yeah.
So the reason that I was asking him was because I didn't know if that was a result of the Beaver Dam. Because there are 2 in the area. One is on the other side of Unquity Road, on near the Holland Street extension. The extension actually empties out onto Canton Avenue. But there's another, it's about an 80 or 100-foot long dam, I guess, reported by Chase Berkeley, I don't know, a year and a half ago. And I didn't know if that water level was as a result of the Beaver Dam. I don't know.
I thought I saw Ingrid shake.
Yeah, I mean, I, run or ride my bike around there quite a bit. And ever since I can remember, it's always weirdly high.
And that's what Todd said. So that's good. So the beavers aren't creating problems that we didn't have.
I was just going to ask you how long the beavers have been there, but I think they haven't been there that long. Yeah.
No, they haven't. I'd say a year and a half ago.
And John, when you're up there, you know what the deer are because you hear them sloshing through that continuously.
Exactly.
And there are two Conservation Commission signs on different sides of the road in different locations in terms of going up and down that highway, that roadway. And we had a real difficult time, by we I mean working with the DPW and finding places where those signs could be put on what would be considered elevated land. There are very few areas along that street on either side where you can find land that is at the level of the roadway.
Yeah.
Interesting land. That's good. I'm glad we've got it.
Well, I thought it would be a great place at one point in time for a storage area for stormwater in the town of Milton. No way. You wouldn't want to put another drop of rain in there.
Wow.
Yeah.
When they put in the flood storage dam, they had to buy a flood easement from the golf course because in certain storms, that dam will back up water onto the golf course. It's always wet, and right now is the wettest time of the year in terms of groundwater elevations. So I agree with, Ingrid, et cetera, that it's not surprising to see that area flooded in early April.
And John, all of those citations were pre-beaver.
The citations.
In terms of the conditions of the wetlands on either side of Howland Street.
Oh, no, I understood that. Right.
Can't blame that on the beavers.
I'm not picking on the beavers. All right, good. Any other new business, additional business?
Yes, John, I had a chance to view 123 Granite Ave, our favorite location in town, of course.
Yes.
Again. And vandals perhaps, have planted a series of 10 apple trees across the north side of that site. And they're apple trees that appear to be a few years old, but half the bark is gone, as if mice or rabbits or somebody else got at the bark. And they're not planted with normal planting methods. They would somebody took a scoop from a large machine, scooped it out, threw the apple trees in, and then just threw the soil back. It's very unusual. Just want to let you know next time you're over there.
But is it a line of trees?
There's a line of trees
Perpendicular to grid?
Perpendicular to Granite Ave, just north of the end of the tarmac, at the north end of the site.
So is it the property line between the American Legion and the DOT?
I don't know because it's well away from the fencing that's there at the what I thought was property line.
So when you were out there, is the equipment, because I see the equipment every day when I go in town, is it outside the 100 feet?
Yes, it is. It's away, and the other equipment that was on the other side, from the DPW side, is also away as well, which I'm very happy to report.
All right. And two other additional business, but they're questions to you, Steve. First one is, we are, I think, about to receive a notice of intent, Nook Pro Tunk, from the DOT for that road that they built. That's coming in, right? Nook, I'm sorry, that's the
Wonderful.
legal jargon stuff.
Sure,
Now,
sure.
now for then, it's sort of an after the fact notice of intent for that road that they built.
Great.
No, that's a question. Am I correct that they are submitting that to you? You've been in contact with,
I have not heard anything about that notice of intent myself. Nobody's contacted me about it.
where'd you,
No
because
kidding.
I've seen a couple of emails going back and forth. I thought it was between you and Ms. Lanner. Is it Elizabeth Lanner or
Yes,
Edith Lanner?
Erica Lanica.
Erica, okay.
Yeah, no, not about that.
What is she talking about?
He was with the roundabout. I
Right.
think Eric Dewan is with the roundabout.
That was the roundabout most recently.
Right.
I thought she was referring to the DOT road.
Yeah,
Well,
What I call it, the
it is
road.
a DOT road,
Right.
the
Well,
roundabout.
didn't you talk to the fellow that down there? His name is Herbert
Henry Webster is
Henry Webster.
Yes. Yeah, no, I don't believe there was nothing about that notice of intent after the fact. I'm still waiting on that
Oh,
one.
all right. Can you chase him on that, please? Yeah, that's kind of embarrassing that they build a road through our wetlands.
Yes, it is.
All right. If you could chase him, I'd be grateful. And the other
I
one,
I would chase her, actually. She's the permitting specialist for DOT. So she's the right person to chase.
all right, good. All right. Oh, and the other one, and I know that just to get everybody up to speed, and Wendy, you should be aware that I'm getting pressed on that Pope's Pond pedestrian bridge. That kind of fell by the wayside. It kind of got lost, I guess, among academic assignments over at Northeastern School of Engineering. And Chase Berkeley was our sort of,
Liaison.
motivator, I guess, because he was friendly with Dan Dulowski, who's the professor at the University's School of Engineering. But Steve, I think, has had some recent conversations with Professor Dulowski. He's the one that actually who was present? I know that Chase was there, I was there, Dan Dulowski was there, and a student lead. There were four of us that walked the area of Pope's Pond. We were trying to find the narrowest span, because when the narrowest span means the shortest bridge. And if it's short enough, they can do it on 4 helical piles as opposed to 8 helical piles. And they thought they found a spot that could dramatically shrink the length of the bridge, which would make it cheaper and easier to suspend on 4 piles instead of 8. And then everything kind of stopped. So we don't have the specs yet. But the plan is to get them to give us the specs. We can then put it to bid to a fabricator. And I know the fabrication, we had a bid that Walpole, I think, had used. And it was about 65,000 at the time, which is within the budget that we received from the CPA funding. But of course, that was a number of years ago, so I'm sure that the fabrication costs have gone up dramatically. But I think we can stay within budget. Can you give us, and I know it's up to me to chase him as well, but did you get anything of substance from him exchanging messages?
Well, yes, I did, and I got a message from him recently asking for some of the detail, for me to send him some of the details on the wetland flags, which I gave him the plan for the wetland flags. And I also added, what did I add? I added some work that his classes had done 4 or 5 years ago with regard to the plan on the project, basically a description of the project. And there was one other thing that I added, technical items. And then I haven't heard from him since I sent those things out.
Oh, boy. Okay. Because those are the same technical plans that I submitted. They were from like 2018, I think. It's
Quite
a while
possible.
ago. And I submitted that with the original CPC application because I
Right.
thought they were that far along already. So I'm not
Right.
encouraged that he had to ask you for the plans that we got from him.
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm on it. I'll chase him.
Okay.
I just wanted everybody
Great.
to know that we didn't forget about it, but it did languish, and Chase was very effective in getting him to show up and walk the site and all that. And I'm sure that Marina will be as well. But I think that.
Oh, yes.
But Chase, that's where he went to school, and he was involved with restructuring or the rehabilitation of the bridge at the other end of the pond. So he knows the plan, the place, and the concept.
You bet.
All right, that's just an update for you. I think that's all from me. Anybody else?
I have
No.
a very quick update,
Good.
John, about the open space and recreation plan, the committee that you all have asked me to represent the Conservation Commission on, and there was a long lag time since our last meeting, almost a year, because of some of the staffing changes and other issues at the planning department. But we are back on track. We met 4 days ago with the consultant, Horsley and Witten Group, and they are putting getting close to final touches on the last draft. And they have one significant part of the plan is an inventory of open space parcels. And they have asked all of us committee members to take a look at the latest version of the inventory that they have. I feel like I am probably the least qualified person on our committee to take a look, a critical look at that inventory. I'm wondering if there are others of you that would be willing to take on that task who have more of a historical perspective in our town than I do.
I'd like to volunteer Tom for that project.
I would say the inventory is the heart of the open space plan and has been a feature of previous ones that I've seen, going back decades. And but I'm not an attorney. I really am not very versed in land labels and zoning designations, so I wouldn't be very helpful in that regard. But yeah, I would probably be familiar with the parcels. So yeah, I think as a matter of course, we ought to all be able to look at that list.
Wendy, could you send that list around?
Yes, I will.
That'd
Yes,
be
I will.
great.
Okay.
And before we break, Wendy, could I go back to you for just a moment on the CPC?
Yeah.
Next month, at the annual May town meeting, there'll be a warrant article, I believe, for the CPC projects that were approved for funding in FY26.
Yes.
That is correct.
So we're in FY25 at the present time.
Mm-hmm.
So the ones that would be approved in May of, since we're 5 months into 2025 already, the ones in the May warrant article wouldn't be for this year; they'd be for next year, FY26. That makes sense.
That is correct. Yes.
So going back to what we discussed about this salt marsh and the project for that area, that application would be FY27.
Correct.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure that
Correct.
that was a sequence, which means the writing of the preliminary application is going to have to begin very quickly.
Very quickly. Yes,
Thanks.
yeah, it would be a shame for us to miss this window, because then we wouldn't get if we were so fortunate as to be chosen for funding and it was approved by town meeting, we wouldn't see that money until FY27.
Yep. So that's the earliest we can get the money is for FY27, and we sure don't want to miss the window because that means we'd be out in FY28.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, good. Anything else? I think we're good. Motion to adjourn? Wake up, wake up.
Nobody wants to adjourn, John.
All right, guys, I move to adjourn.
Did we set up any site visits or no?
Any what? Say it again, Tom?
Schedule any site visits while I was indisposed?
Oh, yeah, yes, yeah, we did. And that's for Chickatobit, and that is May 3rd.
May 3rd.
At
May 3rd, 8:30.
All right. All right, thank you.
Right, probably where the gate is, and if there's no room for parking there, then probably up by the barn, there's, I guess, there are 2 or 3 spaces to pull off the road in front of the barn. All right?
I got you. Good.
Perfect.
And that's
All
the
right.
only site visit that?
Yes.
So that will be a quick one.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Good.
Good. We're good to go, right? Everybody voted yes to adjourn?
Yes.
I think so.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Good night, all. God bless.
Good
Good night,
night,
everyone.
See you later.